The Alien franchise is one of the most popular sci-fi movies of all time. I mean, Alien and Aliens are considered not just amazing sci-fis, but just amazing films in general. And they still hold up to this day. I even rewatched them on Alien Day, and it's amazing how much they, stand the test of time. And because of their popularity, xenomorphs have made their way into comic books. Most recently, with Marvel Comics acquiring the rights to them. And because of that, let's take a look back at heroes who have fought them before. So we're ready for when new heroes eventually fight them again in the future. Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to Top 10 Nerd. I'm your host, David Raff, and today we are going to be talking about the top 10 superheroes who fought xenomorphs. Now, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and remember to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd so you never miss one nerdy moment. Now, with all that being said, let's dive in. Number 10, the Terminator. Okay, so people might say that he's not technically a superhero, but I mean, yeah, he was evil at first, and he came around and saved John, so he became a good guy, and that's why he's included on this list. And to be honest with you, not a lot of heroes have fought xenomorphs yet, but that will change soon with the whole Marvel deal. But back to my main point, who wouldn't want to see the Terminator versus a xenomorph versus a Predator? I mean, it sounds just like a movie, but it happened on the pages of a comic book in the year 2000. It takes characters from the film Alien Resurrection and connects them to the Terminator franchise and the Predator franchise, which already crossed over with Alien. The miniseries was actually called Aliens vs. Predator vs. the Terminator. And I won't spoil too much, but just in case you want to read it, but honestly, it has some pretty crazy fight sequences in it. Number 9, Vampirella. The Aliens vs. Vampirella storyline was in 2016. The main story takes place on Mars, which humans are trying to colonize. They end up finding something vampire related, so they call Vampirella, and just when that happens, they discover xenomorph eggs. And a facehugger actually attaches itself to her. It was a really crazy storyline, and honestly, not a lot of fans were expecting it. I mean, even Nosferatu shows up, and actually ends up fighting and killing the xenomorph queen. It was pretty weird and crazy, but fans actually seem to really enjoy it. Number 8, Wildcats. This crossover happened all the way back in 1998. During it, a ship crashes in New York City, which is carrying Flint. Flint starts to describe the aliens that he saw, and everyone can tell how terrified he actually was of them. At first, from the description he gave, they believed it was a different type of alien species, but lo and behold, it turned out to be xenomorphs. The xenomorphs cause all kind of havoc, wiping out dozens of people. They end up killing them by driving the spaceship into the sun, which, this was a one-shot crossover event, but the reason it was significant was because the characters that died in it actually stayed dead, which was a pretty big deal. Number 7, Jake Estacado. Jake Estacado, also known as, the Darkness, also went up against xenomorphs and predators. It was in 1999. Jake and SARA PEZZINI, who we will talk about later on, teamed up to fight them. Originally, he didn't get to fight them, but when SARA ended up calling him in, he ends up harnessing the power of the darkness and battles xenomorphs and predators, which is probably not something a lot of fans thought they'd ever see. But hey, that's why comics are so freaking cool. They bring you stories and crossovers that you would normally not see anywhere else. Number 6, SARA PEZZINI. SARA has the power of the Witchblade, and as I mentioned earlier, her and Jake team up to take on xenomorphs and predators. The reason it starts is because SARA is informed that the morgue is filling up with a lot of bodies faster than usual, so of course, SARA wants to investigate. She ends up fighting them, cutting off the predator's hand, and even killing one of the xenomorphs, which fans thought was very, very cool. Number 5, Buffy. Yep, Buffy has taken on some xenomorphs in comic form in the year 2012. The title, "In Space No One Can Hear You Slay," is obviously a riff on the famous alien phrase, "In space no one can hear you scream." Buffy and Spike go into space for a vacation and end up encountering a xenomorph, which Buffy ends up fighting. During this crossover, there are a lot of callbacks to the original Alien films, including Buffy when she's using a flamethrower. She ends up killing the xenomorph by exposing it to the sun, kind of similar to what happened earlier in the other crossovers. I mean, that's an interesting way to kill it. And it was only because it was direct exposure because the window shields were down. I mean, I never thought that I would see Buffy take on a xenomorph. I mean, in any type of media, but yes, anything is possible. Number 4, Judge Dredd. Man, even Judge Dredd has taken on xenomorphs? This is getting pretty crazy, but seriously, in the best possible way. This happened in 2003, when he was investigating an underground fight circuit that was using certain types of aliens. Dredd investigates, and him and his team find a xenomorph eggs, and an actual xenomorph which ends up attacking them. Dredd ends up becoming infected by one of them, but his team was able to save him and remove it without actually killing him. I mean, that would have been a super depressing way for Judge Dredd's journey to end. Number 3, Green Lantern. So 2 Green Lanterns have actually faced off against xenomorphs. Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner. Hal was the first. You see, some Green Lanterns ended up going missing, so Hal decided to investigate and found out it was actually xenomorphs. And instead of killing all of them, he decided to send them to a planet where they couldn't harm anywhere else, but they could still live out their days. The story then fast forwards 10 years, where Kyle is the last Lantern around and is forced to face the xenomorphs on their planet. He ends up killing them because that's the only way in order to save them. He ends up killing them in order to save the world. He even lost his ring at one point in this little mini-series, but he was still brave enough to keep going and keep fighting, and he eventually got it back. This was a 4-part series. Number 2, Batman. Batman versus Xenomorphs. I mean, that is one thing I never thought I would say, like ever. This story came out in 1997. When an employee of Bruce's goes missing in the jungle, Bruce investigates and finds Xenomorphs. He ends up fighting them, and defeats them, of course, because he's, well, come on, he's Batman, guys. Did you ever really think that Batman would lose against a Xenomorph? Batman apparently doesn't lose to anyone. He does end up killing them himself, though. One of the missing crew members actually ends up doing that. So his no-kill record remains untarnished. Well, for the most part. And depending on what incarnation you're reading or watching, because it just depends. Batman kills sometimes, Batman doesn't kill sometimes. It just depends on who's writing him. Number 1, Superman. The Superman vs. Alien story came out in the year 1995. In this miniseries, Superman is investigating a city that apparently survived Krypton's destruction, and while in space, he ends up encountering... Can you guess what he ends up encountering? Okay, well, I'm assuming you said xenomorphs. Yeah, xenomorphs. Now, since he is far away from Earth's yellow sun, he is a lot weaker. He's not fully depowered, but he's just a lot weaker. And that gives the xenomorphs an actual chance at killing him. Supergirl ends up showing up and helps him out, and eventually they have to bring him back to Earth because a facehugger has infected him, and before it pops out of his chest, they don't make it to Earth in time, that would actually end up killing him. So they bring him back to Earth, and luckily right in time because he gets his powers back and he doesn't end up dying. It's a happy ending for the Man of Steel, but not so much the xenomorphs. Alright, there you have it, guys, the top 10 superheroes who fought xenomorphs. What does your list look like? And let us know what your favorite alien movie is. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and remember to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd so you always know whenever we post a new nerdy video. I mean, just like this one. I'm your host, David Raff, and thank you so much for watching.